Welcome and thank you for joining me for Suuthing Talks with Susan Leid. Today our video is going to be a little bit more on a serious tone. It's going to be surrounding the events of George Floyd's unfortunate death. But before we get into that, I'd like to ask you to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also turn on your notifications so that every time new video content is dropped, you'll be the first to see it. So let's get ready and let's have this talk. So today on Suuthing Talks, we are going to have a very emotional conversation. First of all, we are still in the middle of this COVID pandemic situation, and where a lot of these states are opening. I'm here in New York City, and we are scheduled to open on June 8th. I don't know how that's going to work just yet, but we're in a place where life is supposed to start to become the new norm. But recently, there has been a turn of events, and what is going on right now is that, there was this unfortunate death of George Floyd. And if you're watching the news, if you're watching your feeds, George Floyd was a Black man that was killed, unfortunately, based on, according to some information from the medical examiner's office, certain issues combined along with the obvious police brutality that happened are the cause of his death. Now, basically, we all saw the video. If you haven't seen the video, I am sure that you can see the video on CNN, MSNBC, Fox, your feed, where this ex-police officer had his knee on George's neck. Now, I'm not sure why that was even okay to do. I do understand, because I do have several family members that are, in law enforcement, and I do understand from that point of view that, at times, people who are in law enforcement, they have to interact with the public and they can get hurt, and so that they have to protect themselves. So if someone is resisting arrest, if someone can possibly hurt them, they have to be trained to, come home alive. And I get it. The part that is very hurtful is that this is a color issue. And I will tell you, the first thing that I started to feel was embarrassed. I was embarrassed because here we are in America and the world is watching. Everybody has a cell phone. Everybody has the ability to take pictures and to video, and we're in this situation and the world is watching, and with everything else that's going on, to me, the first thing I felt was embarrassment. And I know that's kind of odd, but I felt embarrassment, because here it is, we're this superpower, and something that is generations of slavery and Black and white issues, segregation, white supremacy, all of these things have been part of US history, and it's just perpetuating. So, we're in 2020, and I feel like this is 1940 or 1960, where there are still lynchings and all this violence going on. I just didn't understand. First, you have to deal with COVID, and now here it is. We're dealing with this. So that was my first feeling of embarrassment. My second thing was, I'm married to a Black man. I have 2 sons that are Black men. One, my youngest son is now 18. He turned 18 recently, and he is nonverbal autistic. So this kind of hit me in a very different place, because it's like, okay, you have to worry about my husband walking the dog, or, going somewhere, and because he's 6'5", and people being afraid or feeling whatever it is that they feel, he may not come back. Okay, that is very emotional. The other piece is being a mom. And what do you tell your kids? All of us that are African American, all of us that are Black, living in America, or brown, we have to have these conversations with our children, especially if they're males. We have to say, be compliant, be respectful, follow instruction, because we want them to return home. However, with this turn of events, you are following instructions, you are being compliant, and this still happens. It's hateful. It's sickening. And everything that surrounds it is hateful and sickening. I don't know how else to say this, because, here, this is a forum, Suuthing Talks, so we feel better. And sometimes the only way to feel better is to have a good cry, is to scream, is to be emotional for a moment, because we're humans. And we have to kind of understand this so that we know how to direct our families going forward. And that's the whole point of this. To have these talks so that we know how to go forward. And to be very honest, I am in a place where I don't know how to do that. Where I'm in a marriage where my husband is very articulate. He is educated. He is, successful. He is a great dad. He is a wonderful husband. He's a great best friend. But now I have to think about, and I say all of that to say, at first it used to be, oh, the way in which you dressed was, thuggish. So you had to be careful. So I remember, I have 2 biological sons, but I have a lot of adopted, sons as well. So it was about the do-rags and the hoodies, and you don't want to go outside looking like that, et cetera, et cetera. That's not even the issue anymore. The issue is really surrounded by fear and hatred and just being inhumane. I saw new footage day before yesterday, Friday, of 3 of these ex-police officers with their knees on this one man. So you had one officer at the time, they were officers, with his knees on his legs, the other knees on the back, and of course, the knee on the neck. What is that? Why? And you'll say why, because just the thought of it, just it coming out of my mouth and me hearing it, it makes me sick. I mean, I feel sick. But it's on a video. Guys, it's on a video. We see it. You know the next sickening part of this? So the ex-police officer who had his knee on George's neck, there were charges filed. As of Friday, I didn't watch the news all of Saturday because I had my fill. So as of Friday, the other 3 officers, ex-officers, did not have any, they were fired, all of them, but there weren't any charges brought up against those 3. That sickened me. Because here it is, if, God forbid, a family member who's living in my house has drugs in my house and the police come and they see that there are drugs in my house. And I don't know that there's drugs in my house. My husband, nobody else knows. And the police come, guess what? All of us get arrested. If I'm in a store with some friends and they decide that they're going to steal something and I did not steal anything, but I'm with them, guess what? I get arrested along with them. So I don't understand why these other officers were not arrested. And that is what brings us to these protests that are getting violent, the rioting, and the damage, the vandalism, all of these things, because it's surrounding the way you feel. You feel like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. You feel like it's not getting any better. You feel like no matter how much money we make, no matter how much education that we have, no matter how much we strive for excellence, it doesn't matter. What matters is the color of our skin. What matters is the fact that when they see us, there are a certain population that are always going to have this fear, or they're always going to have this insecurity when it comes to the Black male. And these problems are going to perpetuate. It's sickening. So is it right for us to be damaging and rioting? No, it's not. However, I understand it is coming from a place of just feeling overwhelmed and helpless and angry. This is anger. This is a reaction. This is an action that is now generating a reaction. You're killing Black men. And I know that it's wrong to damage. I know that it's wrong to burn down things. But it's also wrong to kill Black men. It's also wrong to kill any man. So now we're being scolded on one side for the reaction, which is a normal reaction to this type of blatant hatred. So We're supposed to accept that you're killing our husbands and you're killing our brothers and you're killing our fathers and you're killing our uh, best friends. You're just killing us. We're supposed to accept that and be quiet, and then also get scolded for reacting to it. Like, no. How about the action to stop all of this should be bringing charges against the other three? You have video, for God's sake. What more do you need? This is not something that is up for debate. There is video that the whole world has seen. Here's the other point of fear when it comes to Black population in America. So these gentlemen eventually will have to go on trial. What happens, God forbid, if they're not found guilty? After having video, after the whole world seeing it, what happens? Will America be able to say justice was served? I don't want to even think about that, but I know that's on the minds of every Black person in America. I pause because this happens to be the worst feeling that I've had in a long time. And I'm a very positive person most of the time. But this right now is very hurtful because it hits home. It hits me. It hits, you have brothers. I have a brother I have a husband. I have sons. Like, I feel very helpless. And as a woman, it's okay to feel helpless, but to worry that they're not going to come home because of Lord knows what, that's just something that I don't think in this current environment we should have to worry about. But we are. We are. A lot of people are talking about COVID affecting African Americans more than the other populations, and it's true because African Americans, unfortunately, are some of the populations in America. We have great health disparities, and that means that we have hypertension, we have type 2 diabetes, we have, heart disease, we have these things, these chronic illnesses. And of course, what COVID is doing is when you are infected and you have these underlying issues, it is harder to get over and it can lead, of course, to death. So yes, the African American populations in America are being hit harder. Now you have this that we have to deal with. And it's not the first time, it's not the second time. It's perpetual. Okay? One good thing I will say was the fact that because everything is visual, the media is capturing this as it happens. The world is watching. I see a lot of young people, Black and white and Spanish and male and female, they're all protesting because they're sick of it, because it's disgusting and it is hurtful. And it's not a black and white thing, it's a human thing. It's like ridiculous. When is this going to stop? And you know what is even more sickening? It's hard because I know that there are people in law enforcement that want to join and to show America that not all cops are like this. But unfortunately, they have to choose. And for a lot of us, we have husbands that are police officers. We have brothers that are police officers. We have fathers that are police officers. And now we have to worry about them because of the backlash of these four terrible people. So there are police that were attacked during these riots, and they didn't do it. They're not the ones who killed George Floyd. The ones that are responsible for that man's death are the ones that need to be arrested, charges brought up, and justice needs to be served. That's the only way that this violence stops. Okay, it's been a long time coming. We have, again, video proof. I mean, everybody's walking around with phones. Everybody is videotaping. It is to the point where I don't know how this is going to turn out if justice isn't served. I do know, again, that the world is watching. So we need to be mindful of how we are conducting ourselves. Because if you think COVID left us as Americans or as a nation vulnerable, this right here is a huge vulnerability. So we need to be mindful of that. I do want to make a point that every African American who is 18 years and over needs to make sure that they vote, because voting is something that sometimes we take for granted. I know when I was younger, there were times that I did vote and there were times that I missed. And that's not something that we can afford to do. If we want to change, if we want justice to happen, we have to understand that it is not just one thing. We have to make sure that we are in control of who enters the White House. Okay? If we don't like whoever is running, does not interest us, it is not the right thing for us to be at home and just say whatever happens, happens. Because guess what? That just leaves the seat open to someone that is not going to have our best interest as a population, at the forefront. So we need to be mindful of that. Right now, my job as a life coach, as a behavioral specialist, is to bring some sort of soothing thought or some sort of calm to whatever the storm is. And to be honest, I don't know what can do that at this moment. Maybe in a day or two, I may have some sort of strategy, some sort of realization, some sort of something that I can come back on and share with you and say, okay, this is how we as a community move forward. Right now, the ball is not in our court. The ball is in the court of the lawmakers and the attorneys and the prosecutors to bring charges so that we can stop this violence. I do want to say that the people, that are rioting and looting and causing fires and stuff, they're not only hurting, it's just a sign of hurt. And unfortunately, there are a lot of Black owned businesses that are being destroyed through this anger, through these overwhelming emotions and feelings and frustration, and just downright when you feel like you're not being treated like a human, you don't behave like a human. You don't behave the way that we were taught to behave. You are lashing out because that is normal. That is a normal human feeling to lash out. But guess what? The world is watching. The world is watching. I will wrap this up this way for now, because we're gonna put a pin in this conversation, and we're gonna probably have other conversations about it. But I just wanna leave the women out there with some sort of feeling of let's just say unity, because we are the wives and we are the mothers and we are the sisters and the daughters of these Black men. And at the end of the day, we feel vulnerable. We feel like we don't know how to move on from this. We don't know what to tell our sons. And as mothers, that's crazy. That is so scary. It's scary to lose your significant other. It's scary for your husbands. It's scary for your dads. It's scary, but it's different when you're a mother of a Black man and you don't know the instruction to give him so that he will come back home to you in one piece. There are so many mothers that have lost their sons to police violence that it's, again, there's the only word that I can say is sickening. I don't know what else to say to my son. I've heard several people over the last 72 hours say that, if they have that talk with their kids, their boys, they've had that talk, cooperate, let them see your hand, answer their questions, be respectful, do not resist, do not, speak, make sure you call me. Don't say anything that you're not comfortable saying. We saw a man not resist. We saw it. He didn't come home to his family. That's sickening. That gives you knots in your throat. It gives you knots in your gut. It's sickening. So I don't know how that conversation is supposed to go. But hopefully in a few days, something will be an epiphany, or there'll be some sort of focus where the emotion will kind of die down, and I'll be able to come and share with you, well, maybe we should, use this strategy or that strategy. But right now, I am like everybody else, and I don't know. I don't. And that's not it's not a nice place for any of us to be, because that is where the fear comes from, and we can't operate in fear. We have to operate in excellence in whatever we do, because it's just what we have to do. And we have to be strong, and we have to show our sons that I don't even know. I can't. Like I said, this is extremely emotional. At points, I just stop and I start thinking about what ifs. And you don't want to go through that in your mind, because that kind of becomes overwhelming and it's heartbreaking. So you just want to try to take that energy and be positive with it, and hopefully wait for justice to prevail. That's the only thing that I could say about that. I will leave with this because, like I said, this is going to be an ongoing conversation. I would like you guys to write how you feel, comment on how you feel, comment on, how you feel about it. It doesn't matter if they're not nice feelings. I think that there needs to be some sort of outlet. So comment, feel free to. And I will definitely read all of the comments and get back to you with, how we as a community, as a population, should try to move forward and be positive. And again, rise is one thing. We have to rise, what life is going to be after this whole COVID thing. But then now you have this additional situation that's just making things even worse. And then you have to think about these two things comorbid. Like, okay, you're dealing with COVID, people are out there protesting, and is that going to lead to another spike? What is this summer going to look like for us? Here it is, us in New York City, we're about to, try to start going out more. And of course, with all the social distancing and everything else, this is something else that we have to worry about. We have to worry about we're walking around with masks on our faces. How's that going to play out? Where is that going to instill more fear in law enforcement when they see Black people outside, Black men outside with the masks on their face? We all have to wear them in public. Like, these are real issues. And I want you guys to comment. I want you to, say what you feel. There is no, oh, this sounds stupid, or this is a dumb question, or there's none of that. Because this is something real. Whether you have a brand new baby that's a male, or you have, an 18-year-old or 20-year-old or 30-year-old son, or it's your husband or your dad or your brother, we are all in the same place. So comment, let us have a forum where we can have a voice and an outlet to get it all out and have real conversations, because this is a real situation. Okay? So I left you with the fact that we have to show our voice, not only in protesting, and like I said before, when you look at the protest and you look at everybody, it is not just Black people out there walking. They're not the only ones out there disturbed and disgusted and just fed up with this nonsense. You see Black people, white people, Asian people, Spanish people. You see people. You see people that are all sick and tired of the people who are put in place to protect us, to keep the peace, killing us. It is disturbing. And I love the fact that that's what I see. Am I happy with the looting and the burning and the violence and the throwing things at, officers who did not do anything? No, I'm not. Do I understand where it's coming from? Yes, I do. But we need a different vice. And that's why I would like to offer this forum to be that. Just say what you feel. I'm not going to hold it against you. I know a lot of people, they want only positive, things. This is not a very positive, focused conversation. This conversation is very emotional. There are times during this whole video that I have to pause because it just gets really emotional up in here, and I don't know what to say, and I don't want to cry on camera because this is heart-wrenching. This is very disturbing. And what's worse is that our kids are home because of this whole COVID thing, and they're watching the news. They're seeing this. They're little. They're 7 and 6 and 8 and 10 and 12. And they're asking, well, what's going on? How, as parents, do we even start having that conversation? And again, that's part of what I do. I'm supposed to be, telling the parents. This is what we tell our kids. This is what we tell the little ones. This is how we get them to, understand what society really is and the expectations and why we as a people have to strive for excellence. Because unfortunately, we're looked at very differently. And that's not going to change. What needs to change, though, is justice for this human being who we all saw die. That is not going to change. How that is dealt with needs to change. I'm asthmatic, so I know what it is to feel tight in the chest where you can't breathe. And just to hear him say those words, I can't breathe, it struck such a chord in me personally because I know what that feels like. And just to imagine you hearing it, because if you saw the video, you can hear him say it. I can't breathe. Are you kidding me right now? I'm going to leave you with that imagery. There's everybody else out there who has some sort of pulmonary chronic issue that knows what it is to not be able to breathe and to feel that way. And it feels like all up in your chest is heavy and you're fighting to know that another human being is doing that to you that was actually sworn in to protect the society and community. Okay, we will stop right there.